Today, I'm going to tell you a story of how Ukraine's counteroffensive fantasy finally came to an end. It's a story that began with a rainbow promise of victory, a mountain of Western weapons, and a world convinced that the Ukrainian army could rewrite the laws of war. But that story is ending in silence, disillusionment, and retreat. For 2 years, Kyiv's leadership told the world that the next offensive, and it was always the next offensive would change everything, that the tide would turn, that Russia would crumble, that Moscow's soldiers would run out of shells, morale, willpower. But here's what I figured. Reality doesn't take its direction from press releases. Remember those words from 2023, the counteroffensive is coming? It became a mantra in Western capitals, in NATO corridors, in think tank conferences. And remember the billions of dollars flowing in? Abrams tanks, Leopards, Bradleys, all symbols of Western power. Ukraine's army was remade in NATO's image. But beneath the glossy briefings and the viral drone videos, there was something, should I say, fragile? A fortress, but built on quicksand. A system built on exhaustion, corruption, and sheer propaganda. Let's come to today. It's almost 2026. The front lines are burning again, from Kupiansk in the north to Pokrovsk in the south. But this time, the story isn't about a bold offensive. It's about survival. The Ukrainian army is crumbling, not all at once, but piece by piece. You can see it in the numbers. In just the first 9 months of this year, Ukraine's Prosecutor General's office opened more than 160,000 cases of desertion. That's 1/3 more than the entire period since the war began in 2022. And we are not talking about a few frightened conscripts sneaking off for a cigarette. We are talking about battalions abandoning posts, soldiers simply walking away, paying off a local police officer, and disappearing from the system. Only about 7 to 8% of deserters have returned. The rest have melted away into basements, across borders, into the black hole of disillusionment. And with no one left to fight, recruitment can't keep up. Ukraine is losing between 10,000 and 15,000 soldiers every month, most of them trained veterans. This desertion crisis has created a vicious circle. The fewer men you have, the harder it is to rotate troops. And the harder it is to rotate, the faster exhaustion sets in. And with exhaustion comes more desertion and more defeat. Now, Kyiv has tried to replace humans with drones. The much-hyped wall of drones. It definitely sounded impressive. But in war, machines don't hold trenches against the odds. They don't stop a tank column with sheer courage. One battalion of human soldiers inspires the next. Drones can replace many things, but not inspiration. Without men, there's no army. Without morale, there's no war. Now, what's happening with Russia? Big army, yes, but big problems too. The Russian army is also exhausted. Assault operations are costly and losses are real. But here's the difference. Russia learned to play the long game. Or maybe Putin went in planning to play the long game. Now, the contract recruitment system in Russia, which now brings in about 40,000 volunteers a month, has kept the Russian front stable. And instead of relying on flash offensives or Western-style shock campaigns, Moscow has settled into a war of attrition, grinding, slow, methodical, and effective, devastatingly effective. The result? Tactical momentum. Kupiansk, Liman, Pokrovsk. 3 fronts, each telling the same story. Ukraine on the back foot, Russia advancing inch by inch. And this in a war where inches decide nations. I'm going to take a closer look at the front line now. The north first, Kupiansk. This city in the Kharkov region was once Ukraine's pride. It was a symbol of its 2022 victory. But now, Kupiansk is in ruins and almost entirely under Russian control. The railway station, the city center, even the Yubileyny district, all taken. What remains is a grey zone, a ghost town where no one really controls anything. And once Kupiansk falls completely, Russia secures a bridgehead into Kharkov, Ukraine's second largest city, and exposes the northern flank of Kyiv's entire defense network. It's not really a question of if, it's a question of when. I'll move south now, and the fighting around Liman tells another story. Liman was one of Russia's biggest losses in 2022. Now, it's about to flip again. Russian troops are tightening the noose. They're advancing 7 to 8 kilometers on a 35-kilometer front. They're crossing rivers, they're reclaiming the railway lines, and these are the lines that once supplied Ukraine's heartland defenses. Now, if Liman and neighboring Svyatogorsk fall, Russia will have completed a northern arc around Slovyansk and Kramatorsk, the industrial fortress of Donbass. Now, for Kyiv, that would be catastrophic. For Moscow, it would be the payoff of patience. Because then there's Siversk, the quiet siege that no one talks about. This city is under partial encirclement. Inside, the Ukrainian forces are running out of ammunition. Outside, their supply routes are already under Russian drone surveillance. It's a slow squeeze, not a dramatic storming, but a ring that's steadily tightening. If Siversk falls, it could trigger a domino collapse across Ukraine's northern Donbass line. I feel this has become a hallmark of the way Russia is fighting now. Not fanfare, just inevitability. The most critical battles, though, are happening around Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk is the heart of Ukraine's western Donbass defense. In August, Russian forces broke through near Pokrovsk to a depth of 15 kilometers. Kyiv panicked. It had to pull reserves from other sectors, Kupiansk, Liman, even Gulaipole, to plug the gap. But that only made the cracks wider elsewhere. Now, fighting rages in the city center. The front has stabilized, but at a high cost. Pokrovsk is surrounded by the ghosts of exhausted brigades and shattered units. Now, if this city falls, the entire Donbass front unravels. Further south lies Gulaipole, birthplace of Nestor Makhno, the anarchist folk hero of Ukrainian history. Today, it's a wasteland. The Russian Eastern Military District has advanced up to 12 kilometers, capturing 10 settlements and crossing the Yanchu River. Gulaipole is now semi-encircled. Once the Pokrovsk to Gulaipole road is cut, the entire southern defense will crumble. Are you seeing it? This doesn't seem to be a fight for cities any longer. It's a fight for time. Let's look at Orekov. Here, Kyiv is fighting back, or is it pretending to fight back? Ukrainian media call it a counteroffensive, but I think it's little more than a diversion. 6 square kilometers gained, but no villages captured, no breakthroughs. And behind the line lies Russia's Surovikin line, a fortress of trenches, mines, and artillery that stopped Ukraine cold in 2023. Yes, this is a front, but a front that could also be the graveyard of Western strategy. As we end 2026, the map tells a story that words cannot deny. Russia has the momentum, methodical, patient, relentless. Ukraine is shrinking in manpower, morale, and ammunition. What's also shrinking is the West's enthusiasm. European countries don't want to host refugees. Forget weapons aid, even the promises are running dry. Washington is distracted, Brussels is broke, and Kyiv, the tip of the arrow, Kyiv is running out of men. Desertion, exhaustion, and defeat have turned the counteroffensive dream into a logistical nightmare. A fight for land has become a fight for time, and time is running out for Ukraine. Yes, winter will bring a pause, but it won't bring peace. At least not if talks stay suspended the way they are now. So here's what will happen. Russia will rest, rearm, and regroup. Ukraine will bleed in silence. Because without fresh Western aid, Kyiv can't stabilize recruitment or rotate its troops. Without troops, it can't defend. And without defense, it can't survive. And that's what the arc of this story is. The war that began as a test of courage has become a test of endurance. And endurance in this war belongs to Moscow. 2 years ago, the West said Russia couldn't win. Today, it's not so much that Russia is winning, it's that Ukraine is losing itself. The frontlines tell the truth that no press conferences can hide. Kupiansk, Liman, Pokrovsk, cities that once defined Ukraine's strength, now mark its unraveling. The counteroffensive fantasy has ended, not with a bang, but with a whimper. And when the guns fall silent this winter, the question will no longer be, how will Ukraine win? It will be, how long can Ukraine last? This is APT Opinion, and I'm here to tell you, the illusion is over.